Section 13. Legislation affecting grading and marketing of eggs. Much legislation has been enacted to regulate the sale of shell eggs. The laws apply to the edibility of the product and to its quality and grade. Both federal and state laws are applicable to eggs, but practically all of those pertaining to candling and grading have been enacted by the states. Federal laws. The Farm Products Inspection Act of 1917 provided the original authority for establishing grades and grading service for voluntary use. Beginning in 1925, this authority was provided each year by an act of Congress that also provided the USDA appropriations. The Agricultural Marketing Act of 1946 contains the authority under which the present grading service is performed and authorizes the development of standards. The U.S. standards for quality of individual shell eggs serve as a basis not only for establishing U.S. grades, but also for developing state standards and grades. The Egg Products Inspection Act, EPIA, which became law in 1970, provides for the uniformity of standards and grades. The Act states for eggs which have moved or are moving in interstate or foreign commerce, no state or local jurisdiction may require the use of standards of quality control, weight, quantity, or grade which are in addition to or different from the official federal standards. This has prompted states with egg laws in which the standards and grades differ somewhat from the official federal standards and grades to amend their laws to comply with the federal standards. A provision on labeling prohibits states from requiring labeling on eggs from other areas to indicate the state or other geographic area of production or origin. This provision does not apply to Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, or the Virgin Islands. The Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act and the regulations for its enforcement apply to all food products in interstate commerce, including shell eggs. This act is designed to prevent the shipment of adulterated and misbranded foods. In applying this act to such eggs, a small tolerance for lost eggs is permitted, as it would be rather difficult, costly, and impractical to eliminate all lost eggs from wholesale quantities of eggs. The Federal Trade Commission has responsibility for regulating the business practices engaged in by firms marketing eggs in interstate or foreign commerce. Surveillance inspections. EPIA also controls the disposition of certain undergrade eggs to prevent their getting into consumer channels. These eggs are defined in the Act as restricted eggs and include checks, dirty eggs, incubator rejects, inedibles, leakers, and lost eggs. Checks and dirties can move to official USDA egg breaking plants where they can be handled and processed properly. All other restricted eggs must be disposed of in a way that prevents their use as human food. They can be denatured with a color dye or other approved materials and be used in animal foods. The EPIA provides for inspections of shell egg handlers to control the disposition of restricted eggs and to assure that the eggs sold to consumers contain no more restricted eggs than permitted in U.S. Consumer Grade B. Shell egg handlers include firms that grade and pack eggs for the ultimate consumer. commercial distribution, and hatcheries. Each handler is required to register with the USDA. Under this program, quarterly visits are made to each producer, packer, and yearly visits are made to hatcheries. The visits are conducted by either a state or federal shell egg surveillance inspector to verify that shell eggs packed for consumers are in compliance, that restricted eggs are handled properly, and that adequate records are being maintained as required. State laws. In 1919, the first state egg laws were enacted in South Dakota, Iowa, and Illinois. The earliest regulations mainly prohibited the sale of inedible eggs. Since then, egg laws have been enacted in all of the 50 states. The laws regulate the labeling, grading, and marketing of eggs and reference the U.S. standards, grades, and weight class. The inspection of eggs at retail outlets for grade and weight compliance is basically the responsibility of state regulatory agencies under state egg laws. New York was one of the first states to enact a law requiring that eggs be labeled by quality and size. New York egg producers hope that proper labeling for quality, coupled with an intensive consumer education program, would cause consumers to be willing to pay more for top quality. They believe that local producers would benefit because of the higher yield of top quality eggs that packers could obtain from their eggs. Today, most states have labeling requirements and require licenses or permits for the sale of eggs. The provisions of the EPIA concerning standards, grades, and labeling have helped to ensure the free movement of eggs in interstate commerce and eliminate features in state egg laws that tend to act as trade barriers.